them again. Why? Because Caitlin Clark walked out with Morgan Wallen. I'm not going to pretend to know who Morgan Wallen is. I'm not going to pretend to know who he is. But I know who Chris Brown is. And there were no issues with WNBA players booking out a suite to see Chris Brown. I know Chris Brown nearly beat Rihanna to death. Beat Rihanna half to death.
Caitlin Clark attended a Morgan Wallen concert and walked out on stage with him, a moment that sparked immediate backlash from a segment of social media, despite being an entirely routine part of Wallen's live show. The musician regularly brings out athletes and celebrities at his concerts, and dozens of public figures across various backgrounds have done exactly what Clark did without drawing a single headline. The difference, critics of the outrage argue, is that the person doing it this time was Caitlin Clark. The double standard being pointed to is hard to dismiss.
Nearly beat Rihanna to death. Beat Rihanna half to death. Like, I know it was a long time ago, but it happened. And also, Chris Brown has tens of other allegations. That being said, I don't care if a WNBA team goes to see Chris Brown. I don't care. And nobody cared when that happened, other than people trying to use it as a gotcha, being like, why is this double standard a thing? At the end of the day, from what I've got,
when multiple WNBA players attended a Chris Brown concert and booked a suite for the event, the reaction was muted. Brown carries a far more serious and well-documented record than Wallen. His 2009 assault on Rihanna remains one of the most high-profile domestic violence incidents in celebrity history, and further allegations have followed him since. The Chris Brown situation drew minimal sustained criticism from the same corners of the internet now expressing outrage over Clark attending a Wallen show. For many observers, that inconsistency tells the whole story.
At the end of the day, from what I've gathered, Morgan Wallen has basically a different celebrity walking out with him every concert. And there are celebrities from all walks of life that have walked out, and it has never been an issue until Caitlin Clark did it. Which means the issue is not. The issue is not that Caitlin Clark, that the whole situation isn't the issue. The issue is that Caitlin Clark did it. Something is a non-issue until Caitlin.
Whether attending one of his concerts makes someone complicit in that incident is a much harder argument to sustain, particularly when the criticism isn't being applied evenly to the many other public figures who have appeared at his shows. The broader pattern being identified goes beyond any single incident. Clark has been on the receiving end of this dynamic repeatedly. Something she does that would be entirely unremarkable if done by another athlete becomes a trending controversy within hours. She has addressed many of the specific criticisms leveled at her publicly and on the record, sometimes repeatedly, and it has made no difference.
Clark does it. And when Caitlin Clark does it, it's like you might as well just get rid of her. You might as well just call her every name under the sun. At the end of the day, Caitlin Clark walked out in a concert with one of the most popular artists in the world. That is what Caitlin Clark did. And you're seeing
new incidents arise, new justifications appear, and the cycle continues. The goalposts move. The argument being made by those defending Clark is that the hostility directed at her isn't really about Wallen, or the Morgan Wallen incident, or any individual action she takes. It's about what she's perceived to represent to a specific group of people, her background, where she grew up, where she went to school, who she's associated with, and that those perceptions are being used to justify treating her as a permanent target.
You're seeing it just break them again. Caitlin Clark cannot do anything without it becoming an internet think piece. And again, we all know you have that dumbass Nepo baby pushing it. Pushing everything. Caitlin Clark, by just existing, is an issue to her. But at the same time, you're seeing it constantly that there are actions that are irrelevant.
Every ordinary thing she does gets filtered through that lens and repackaged as evidence of something sinister. The content of her actual views, which by most observable measures sit well to the left of what her critics project onto her, appears to be irrelevant to that framing. Clark's own response to the latest round of controversy has been to post the concert footage directly to her social media story without comment. Whether that's confidence, indifference, or a deliberate decision to stop engaging with the noise, the effect is the same. She doesn't appear particularly concerned.
That are irrelevant. But if it's done by Caitlin Clark, it becomes worldwide news, and it's a problem, and everything's an issue, and Caitlin needs to be kicked out of the league, and Paige would never, because she gave some speech 5 years ago that word for word Caitlin Clark repeated in a Time magazine article. But it doesn't matter. None of that.
The argument from her defenders is that this is the only rational response available to her. If Clark were to withdraw entirely from public life, no concerts, no interviews, no personal content, that too would be turned into a story. The only version of Clark that wouldn't generate criticism from this group is a version that doesn't exist in public at all. What's getting lost in the noise, as usual, is that nothing actually happened.
But it doesn't matter. None of that matters. None of that matters. Because Caitlin Clark has been deemed as fair game by these group of people that don't give a flying fuck about sports. Don't care about Caitlin. They don't care about Caitlin Clark. They don't care about sports. They don't care about any of these players. They just want to use their... They don't even care about the other players. They just want to use...
Clark went to a concert. She walked on a stage. She went home. 25 other people did the same thing at previous Wallen shows without incident.
The other players. They just want to use these players as an excuse to hate on a person. To hate on a person because they believe that that person... And it's nothing to do with them as a human when it comes to Caitlin Clark. They think Caitlin Clark represents a group of people they hate. And is it because Caitlin Clark represents that people? Is it because Caitlin Clark thinks like that? Is it because Caitlin Clark doesn't align with them politically? Hell no. Based on all the people, everything that Caitlin Clark has been accused of, she's obviously been not that.
Clark struggled in the first half before returning with noticeably more aggression in the third quarter. She confirmed in her post-game comments that she had visited the locker room during the game to get her back adjusted, something she said gets out of alignment fairly quickly. Once back on the floor, she was attacking the basket more directly and admitted she probably could have drawn a few additional calls on drives where contact wasn't rewarded. Her post-game framing around officiating was measured but pointed.
Like to say spooky, and I'm here to tell you it definitely looked spooky because there's not one play, 2-3, but 3 plays, possibly 4 to 5 of players attempting to get Caitlin Clark into foul trouble. Yes, they was laying it in on her. They was damn near breathing on her hair, trying to get her into foul trouble and trying to get Caitlin Clark to react to these set different things. Now I'm here to tell you, it worked. It definitely worked because I believe Caitlin Clark had got into...
She acknowledged that getting her feet in the paint creates defensive rotations regardless of whether a shot goes up, and that forcing the defense to react opens teammates for looks on the perimeter. She described regaining her burst and explosiveness as a priority this season after losing it while recovering from her injury last year. Several plays from the game drew attention online, with fans pointing to moments where opposing players appeared to position themselves in Clark's path or initiate contact in ways that resulted in offensive foul calls against her rather than defensive fouls on the ball handler.
Because I believe Caitlin Clark had got into like 4 fouls at one point, and Stephanie White pulled her out the game. Now, why come Stephanie White did not argue with the referees by a lot of these fouls that Caitlin Clark was getting is beyond me. But I'm telling you right now, the more we get into this season, it's going to look more and more like Stephanie White is definitely sabotaging Caitlin Clark. Her and the WNBA referees, it could be something going way back to the damn executives of the WNBA.
At least 3 specific sequences were flagged situations where Clark's momentum carried her into a defender who had moved laterally into her lane. Whether those constitute legitimate charges or manufactured contact is genuinely debatable, and reasonable observers disagree on the correct calls. What's less debatable is that Clark's defensive engagement was inconsistent at points throughout the game.
NBA. For whatever reason, they do not want Caitlin Clark to be the face of this league. Let's dive into this right now, because I'm telling you this one, for sure, this is spooky. Now, this is the first one right here, right? Shout out to WNBA Got Game. Caitlin Clark was trying to get open, but ended up with an offensive foul. Watch this play right here, y'all.
As she tried to separate from James, and it's
now, y'all see her right here. She got her arms. She's in the
There were possessions where she conceded ground without contesting, and her effort level on that end has been a recurring talking point. This isn't unique to Clark. Plenty of offensive-minded guards across the league conserve energy defensively, but it becomes a more visible conversation when she's also picking up fouls on the other end that keep her out of the game. The broader strategic picture is real, regardless of how one reads individual foul calls. Teams are clearly targeting Clark on both ends.
She got her arms. She's in the path. In Caitlin Clark's path. Bro, come on now. Come on now.
gonna be, yeah, I mean, gonna get called for that every time.
Can't do that.
Now, look at Caitlin Clark. Frustrated because she's literally all in her bubble. And guess who got the foul? Caitlin did, right? Oh, there's another one. Watch this. What we talked about yesterday.
Insisting, and we talk about James is going to embellish any kind of contact.
Offensively, opponents are drawing her into help situations and daring her to stay attached to her assignment. Defensively, players are hunting physical contact when she's in a ball handler's space. That's standard professional strategy against any player opponents want neutralized.
What we talked about yesterday.
Insisting, and we talk about James is going to embellish any kind of contact. We've seen it a couple times.
Flopping, bro.
Saying flopper.
Caitlin said fucking flopping, bro. Watch this again. Look at this again. Guess who got the foul? Caitlin Clark. This one right here. Caitlin Clark. Hold up. No, that's an old one there. Hold on, y'all, because there's a lot more of Caitlin Clark. Once again, always.
Clark's reaction to the result was straightforward. One game out of 44 doesn't change anything. There's a lot to build on and a lot to correct.
Again, always these players messing with Caitlin Clark, making it so she feel uncomfortable, throwing her off her rhythm. And at this point, I am convinced that look at this. Not just Caitlin Clark, by the way. Not sure why refs didn't call foul here. Look at this, bro. They're intentionally making it their business to get the Indiana Fever players into foul.
The season is long. Whether Stephanie White's decision not to contest more aggressively with officials during the game reflects a broader philosophical choice or simply a read on which battles are worth picking publicly is unclear. But with Clark's foul situation becoming a recurring issue even early in the season, how the team manages her minute-to-minute in games where she's picking up calls quickly will matter.
Players into foul trouble. One fan stated a push requires the extension of the arms. In this play, Caitlin Clark extended her arms, so this is push. They should have called an offensive foul, correct? Let me see you twist this one. So as you guys can see here, there's fans going with this narrative that Caitlin Clark is the bad guy. Caitlin Clark is not doing anything correct in the basketball scheme of things. Now, Caitlin Clark did respond to this.
Let's positive afterwards, so we're not going to hang our heads.
Caitlin Clark did respond to this.
Let's positive afterwards, so we're not going to hang our heads. We're going to move forward. A lot to be proud of, and a lot to learn from too. So there's only one of 44. We got a long ways to go.
Caitlin, to your point on feeling good, you made a couple of quick trips to the locker room. Was there a reason for that?
Sorry, who's talking? Oh, my bad. Just getting my back adjusted. It gets out of line pretty quickly. So just getting my back put back in place a little bit. But other than that, I feel great. But
you attack the basket a lot. Is that